Absolutely. And that actually ties into my next point, which is look for patterns. Look for, because think of like all these different settings to your life, and they all have to be kind of in a certain way in order for these changes in your health to occur. So like, for example, for me, when I'm doing my best, it's not just that I'm sticking to my gym regimen.
Me. Oh.
Gym, working out.
Oh, yeah.
The
I
place
thought
where you...
I'm also important. You have a gym membership.
Oh
you get to see me every week.
Yeah, I can't seem to get out of it. It's one of those contracts that you get locked into.
You got a free towel.
So yeah, sticking to my workout schedule, but then there's also, how I eat. There's also my recreation time, there's my sleeping patterns, there's my work schedule. Like, all of these things all have to fit perfectly. And what happens is when one of those dials gets turned too far in one direction, you have to make up for it in all these other areas. Right? So looking at different aspects of your life and trying to find that balance, and work is a big one. Like she writes in here about working 12 hours a day.
Yeah, and I was a former teacher, so I know what that's like, and it's so discouraging. And like, I remember this as a teacher, and I taught high school. It's nonstop, and so you're always performing, and it isn't like in other fields where you can take a break and go get yourself a coffee and clear your mind. Like, you're trapped. You can't leave. There's an audience waiting for you. And every minute of your day is scheduled. And so when you do get a lunch break, it's so tempting to like leave the school for a minute, go down to the Jack in the Box, because you only have 30 minutes, or Taco Bell or Burger King, and just kind of load up and just have a moment. And it's a mental break. And that's what she talks about in the second point, where she talks about how she's trying to cope. She has good insight, right? She doesn't need us to come in and go, hey, I think this is more a mental thing than it is anything else. It's not that your body is trying to gain this weight back. It's that you're coping poorly, right? And you're remedicating with the food, and that's what's happening. She has that good self-awareness, that self-insight. And I think that that's something that, we have to circle back to, is like, how do we do stress coping, and how do we not use food to try to mitigate the challenges of the day?
Right. I would definitely agree. And for me, I think a healthy diet and exercise is part of the coping.
Right.
But what I see people doing often is when they get stressed at work, they feel like, well, I don't have time to prepare my meals.
Yes.
I don't have time to go work out.
Right.
So then those things are dialed back.
Yes.
But those things are often the best ways of coping.
I agree, but this is one of those scenarios where I want to come into the logistics of the human, right? Because we can just kind of pontificate from an ivory tower and say, hey, the trick is you need to get to the gym. Well, no crap. But and she knows that. That's how she killed 80 pounds. So she's a winner, But then when somebody's saying, hey, my life has changed. So the routine of my world, the version of my world that allowed me to do that has gone, and now problem, or now new child, or now new job, or new stress. And so that's something that I think is key. When we think about health, when we think about physical health and weight loss, I think that there's a plan A, there's a perfect plan, right? This is whenever I'm eating correctly, I'm mentally healthy, and I'm working out, and I'm doing routines, right? And I'm healthy in a lot of ways, not just what I'm eating, but also how I'm caring for myself, right? Lots of things. That's plan A. When plan A gets interrupted because you take a new job where you're traveling, or, something stressful happens, I think there needs to be a created plan B, where you sort of tell yourself, okay, I don't have access to all the assets I had in plan A, but I refuse to fall to my rock bottom. I refuse to capitulate to the point where I'm going to, fall back to trash habits or whatever it is I'm doing. If I have to go to a Jack in the Box because I don't have time to prepare my food, there are menu options that I could have that are not going to make me regret this.
So a big part of that goes to prior preparation, right?
It does, but I'm kind of taking a harm reduction philosophy.
No, I get that. And I totally agree. But here's the other thing, though, too, is if you're not prepared for stuff, you throw yourself in a position where you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So you can go to Jack in the Box, fine. But if I'm prepared and I've already I'm familiar with the Jack in the Box menu, and I already did the research, and I already looked at what's on the menu.
You get ahead of it.
I can, you have to stay ahead of it.
I see.
The same for me. Like when I go traveling, because I'm now in a job where I have to travel a lot for work, and so I have a schedule where I'm at the gym 6 days a week.
Right.
Then I have to travel, and then
6 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I don't even bathe 6 days a week. That's really impressive.
So when I'm on the road, I got to figure that out. But I don't wait until I'm on the road.
You get ahead of it
to figure out what should I do?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that there's a level of coping that comes with sort of having some plans in the background, some contingencies, especially whenever you're a teacher, when you're inundated, you're working 12 hours a day. I grant you that you're not going to be able to get to the old routines that got you this far. But I think Nick's points are right about the first point about how do you recognize the gains and how do you do something with that mentality. And to the second thing about, how do you factor in whenever life changes, I like the idea of contingencies. I also like the idea of harm reduction. And what I mean by that, don't let perfect get in the way of better, right? So there is a fallback position that is not your A game, but it is an acceptable B game. You go from losing a pound a week to losing a quarter of a pound a week. But that is meaningful, right? And so it slows to a crawl, but your progress, right? Or you halt, you don't regress. I don't mind if you stay right where you're at 150. But, we don't want to see you go backward, right? And so sometimes that is the best you can do in that moment. In that season of your life, you can't march forward right now, but you can hold the line. And I think that that's meaningful too. Now, I want to circle back to some of the mental health stuff, because she mentioned some pretty significant things.
Right.
Obsessive compulsive disorder, trichotillomania, skin picking, hair pulling, that kind of thing. And then, also pointed out anxiety, also pointed out PTSD and history of grief. And also added the caveat, I am not in therapy right now. Okay, so this healthcare the weight conversation is one part of all this, and I'm grateful to see that you're progressing. But I want to come alongside you for a second as a friend and just tell you, you're about to get married. You're about to go through some significant life change. I would really like to see you have a connection to a therapist if that's something you can factor into your week, even if that's just using online therapy or something. I would like to see you have that, just because so much is changing around you, and you already have so many factors that need to be addressed. And so, anyway, I just want to make sure I added that caveat, because those are non-zero variables. Those things matter, and the grief, the loss, skin picking, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, and significant life change, hard work, overstressed, undernourished, and about to get married. Okay, wow, that's a hurricane of stuff, and I just want to make sure that you're supported in that. So that would be a note.
And the only other note that I had, kind of tying in with the mental health aspect, was I was going to say something kind of similar, but in the sense of looking at losing your dad at age 14. That is a very traumatic experience, and I've worked with a lot of people with grief and loss issues. And one pattern that I've noticed is that grief and loss that occurs at a very young age, there starts to be guilt issues associated with that. I've worked with a lot of people who have lost, who've gone through traumatic experiences, and the interesting thing is that they create kind of a standard that they held their childhood self to, that the child can't live up to. Like, it's kind of hard to explain, but like, you need to be fair to yourself. Like, when we look back at things as adults, we look back through the lens of being an adult.
Right, but when you're a child, that's a standard you can't live up to. Right.
And that is the double standard that I see so often that causes so much guilt, is because I look back and I say, oh man, I was so stupid. Why didn't I do X, Y, and Z?
Right.
Well, I'm 37 years old.
Right.
I can't separate myself from the knowledge that I have right now.
Yeah.
So I'm holding...
Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, I'm holding my childhood self to a standard that I'm holding myself to now.
That's
and that's
really well
not
said.
Fair.
Yeah.
And you think about at age 14, I mean, what does our society trust a 14-year-old with?
Nothing. Right? Yeah.
You can't drive.
You can go to a PG-13 movie.
You can't vote.
Yeah.
You can't live on your own.
Right.
We don't send you to go fight wars. You're not even able to go on a field trip without a parent slip.
So how are you supposed to be able to know how to navigate the complexity of grief and loss and what to do? Exactly. Yeah.
So
grown-ups don't know how to do that.
Yeah. So when you look back at yourself, you have to be able to... We have to be able to give ourselves permission to understand that we're children.
And I think you're right. Like, don't compare, whenever you're in the Hall of Fame, you can't look back on your rookie year with regret.
Yeah.
That's just not fair. It's a standard that doesn't apply. And so I think that's actually a really good note. But Creole, congrats. Congrats on the wedding. Congrats on the progress. Cope with that stress in those meaningful ways, and always look back over your past and ask yourself what has worked before. And because you've found solutions before, now we have to re-engineer those for the future. And be open-minded to checking in with a therapist really in person or online. I just think that'd be a really intelligent move at this phase of your life.
All right, thank you for writing in. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Insta-Regret. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Hey listeners, did you know there's a cadre of mental health enthusiasts who help support this show every week? That's right, and you can join them by becoming a patron of the show. For $1 a month, you can become a THERAPAL, a member of the official Pod Therapy fan club. For $5 a month, you can become a THERAPOD, a member of the dapper, sophisticated, three-toed reptilian special forces branch. Or, if you feel like being a hero, for $20 a month, you can become a THERAPRODUCER, a member of the Elite 8 who contribute messages to our show during commercial breaks and get a producer credit in the show notes. If you'd like to join the party to help us make the show possible and tap into all that sweet special content for patrons only, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about stopping yourself from saying the wrong thing.
How can I stop putting my foot in my mouth? Hi guys. I'm desperate for some guidance or some tips on how to address this issue I've had for quite some time. Also, you are both very quick and witty.
Yeah.
I doubt that.
Yeah. Well, not both of us.
So I figured you would be able to have some good ideas on what to do.
Well, you are wrong.
I am a highly reactive person and always seem to answer a question or say a statement without thinking about what I'm saying first, mostly when under pressure or put on the spot. It feels like I have 10,000 thoughts all trying to come out in one small space, and the first thought that makes it through is the one I say out loud, even if it's wrong or not what I was intending to say. I then think of the right answer, or what I truly wanted to say, minutes, hours, or even days after it happened. I can't seem to articulate what I want to express in the moment under pressure. This has gotten me into trouble with people, and it's usually impossible to tell the person what had happened afterwards. Recently, I find this reactivity is affecting my job. I unknowingly rush through my work and am making mistakes on what feels like a daily basis. This is very bad, as my job is in finance and I have to be extremely detail-oriented. When a mistake is brought to my attention, I look back at what I did and I think to myself, why was I rushing through this? Why didn't I take the time to make sure that everything was correct? Why can't I simply slow down? Also, sometimes I give my coworkers wrong information, or they give me wrong information. It leads to everyone panicking, and then we find out that everything is okay and where it's supposed to be, or we correct the mistake. I feel embarrassed, ashamed, and I want to change this behavior immediately. I want to be able to slow down, to think things through before I react, and know that I'm giving the best answer or doing the best work that I can. It's difficult because it's almost like I go into panic and I'm not aware of what I'm doing or saying, and then it's over and I have to recollect what just happened. It feels uncontrollable. Therefore, I don't even know where to begin. What do you guys suggest? From Anonymous.
Yeah, this is a really good one. And I can kind of see this question playing out in a couple of different ways. I can see it playing out in the sense of I accidentally say something that I didn't mean to, right? I kind of spout off at the mouth and wish I had taken my time and kind of gotten that right. But I can also see this with life choices. And so people that, that I've met in the world, whenever we are frightened or struggling or trying to move too quickly, sometimes we get in our own way and we make decisions in the way that we decide something at work or decide to hit send on that email or whatever it is, and we regret it.